All right. Hey there, and welcome to another episode where we're going to talk about the idea of why calming down is actually not a good strategy or approach when it comes to OCD and anxiety. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Codde. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds. Got a couple cool things coming up. So, in October, it's OCD Awareness Month, or I'm sorry, OCD Awareness Week. So I'm going to be running a free workshop or seminar. I have the links down in the notes. I'm also starting a weekly private message that I'm going to be sending out to people. I have the link down in the notes below, so you won't be able to access it on, the regular platform. So this is something kind of private I'm doing for my community. It's free, but yeah, so you can get the links down in the notes. And then also, if you're looking for help and support, you're welcome to head over to restoredminds.com and apply for TBC as well, or get a copy of the book. So, with that said, let's go ahead and talk about why calming down is not effective, or even an appropriate strategy, in my opinion. So when we start feeling anxiety or a trigger come up, and when I say the word come up, it means that we kind of notice this energy start to come up in our body and come to the surface. And let's just use anxiety for this, but really we can talk about anger or guilt, or really any of the lower emotions, right? A strong desire to eat, any kind of addictive behaviors, right? All that stuff. So this trigger happens, and this energy kind of takes place in our consciousness. Now, what traditional paths have taught is the idea of using techniques to calm yourself down. The reality is that your system knows how to regulate. Your system knows how to move towards homeostasis. You don't really need to do a lot to do that. What you need to make sure you're not doing is anything that's fueling it or anything that is perpetuating it, right? So in this case, being the safety behaviors, the compulsions, so avoidance, reassurance, thought blocking, right? Suppression tactics, right? Anything that is fueling that loop. So if we fuel the loop directly, we can perpetuate the problem, right? Or we can perpetuate the energy, I should say. I shouldn't even label it a problem necessarily, because these are normal experiences, but they're uncomfortable. So when people try to calm down, what they're effectively doing for the most part is a suppression tactic. So they'll use, diaphragmatic breathing. They'll try to go and meditate. They'll try to go and do things with the sheer intention of removing the uncomfortable experience, right? And the issue is that you're framing the emotional experience as something bad, and you're setting the belief in your system that this is a bad experience. I'm not supposed to have this. When this comes up, I need to drop everything I'm doing and stop this feeling. But when you're trying to stop energy, it creates a suppression, right? So it's kind of like pushing, like I always use the analogy of a beach ball coming to the surface and you pushing it underwater. The reality is it's just going to come back up. Instead, what a much healthier way to go about things is actually learning to confront the feeling and to be totally present with it. And what I mean by that is actually bring your conscious awareness to the feeling itself and not run from it, not try to avoid it, not suppress it, but also not do things that, and we want to be very confident that we're not doing anything to perpetuate it or suppress it. So we don't necessarily want to feed the feeling and validate that we really are in danger or whatever emotion, and really fester in it, right? Which is us getting into the thoughts and us, justifying the presence of the experience. Instead, if we can remain conscious as a true observer, creating distance between our conscious awareness and the feeling that we're experiencing in our body, really being aware of where we're experiencing it in the body, non-judgmentally placing that awareness on it, it allows the energy to come up in the system and effectively run its course. Now, once the energy runs its course and it actually moves, right, releasing, so to speak, the system calms back down on its own. You see, so When we're talking about releasing emotions and we're talking about letting go of feelings, a lot of people, the mistake is the presumption is that we need to remove the feeling because the feeling is bad, it's uncomfortable, so we're releasing it, we're removing it, we're getting rid of it, right? And that's actually not what's happening. What we are really aiming to do is to let go of the resistance to the experience, and the feeling itself and our body know how to regulate. They know how to do what they need to do. The feeling knows how to release on its own as long as it's given the environment in which to do so. So when we talk about letting go of a feeling, if you think about just the phrasing, there's an implication that because we have to let go of something, it means that we're holding on to it. And what holding on is really our resistance to the experiences. When we resist something, what you resist persists, right? Famous phrase in psychology. So when we resist something, it perpetuates it. And when we're doing anything in the suppression tactic, it is just going to perpetuate the experience over the long term. So with that being said, the reason calming down is not anything that I would ever teach or recommend to somebody is because it implies the idea that what you're experiencing is bad and you need to get rid of it. And when we try to use tactics to get rid of feelings, we use them in a way to create suppression. And we suppress. So it's like, think about a child who is and Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this, right? And so I have two young children, so this is something that I think about a lot, of like the overall message that I'm sending to my children. So let's say that my daughter gets really frustrated or angry, right? And I tell her, you need to go to your room and calm down, right? Let's say that happened. Well, what am I communicating there, right? Number one, if she's angry, I'm disconnecting my attachment with her, right? It's not, you're not allowed to be angry. You need to leave my presence, go to your room and calm down. So she already is learning that it's not safe because it threatens my attachment to feel angry, right? Or to feel frustrated. Now, and then if she goes to her room and she needs to figure out how to stop being angry, what's the most natural thing that she's going to learn is to suppress, is to bottle it up, right? And she can come back out and put on a happy face and say she's sorry or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, so I think it worked. I'm like, oh, you see, that worked. That was a really good tactic as a parent. And it's like, well, no, actually what it did, it set her up for a life of suppression. And by bottling up all this emotion inside of her, it's likely to lead to long-term issues, whether it be disease or, just the inability to handle triggers or, having to, just constantly worry about suppressing her emotions. So a much healthier thing is when I'm noticing her have emotion, it's actually to get her to identify the emotion, where it is, and actually say, it's okay that you're feeling this way. But to not allow the emotion also to dictate your behavior and to say, okay, where do you feel this, and become conscious of the feeling itself, allow the feeling to pass, and then be able to direct into, a behavior that's more in line with long-term values. So in the same way with us, calming down, when we're doing things to calm down, whether that's, again, even meditation or breathing exercises, these tactics, these are all good things. But if you're using them as a suppression, like, notice how that can actually become counterproductive for you. If the moment you feel anxious, instead of being able to like become conscious of it, you have to run into a room and go meditate to try to, and then you notice it dissipate with time, or you notice that you kind of reach a calmer state. The issue is you're validating that the emotional experience is dangerous, or it's not good, it's not acceptable, and I need to change it immediately. The reason we meditate, the reason we practice breathing exercises, the reason we meditate is because when these triggers come up in our day-to-day life, we're able to stay present and conscious enough to actually observe them, to breathe through the experience, and to allow the experience to pass in a non-resistant state. We use those tools so that when the trigger happens, we're able to navigate the experience. We don't do it to get rid of the experience. We do it to get rid of our resistance to the experience. That is so critical to understand that. So this is why, the idea of like, go calm down, I need to calm myself down, often leads to compulsive behavior. So, and that might be, again, drinking, smoking weed, even doing quote unquote spiritual and good practices like meditation and breathing and all this other stuff. It's like, those can be good, right? If used in the right context. Just in the same way, like, if someone drinks alcohol, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Depends on the context in which it's done, and depends on the value system of the person, you know? So, with that, I hope this was helpful in understanding the idea of quote unquote calming down, and why I don't think it's a good practice to integrate into your life, as much as what we want to do is actually learn how to drop our resistance to our experiences and actually allow them to naturally unfold, because then we're not suppressing and holding stuff in our body. So thank you so much. I wish you guys a great week and a great day. If you're looking for, again, support, please visit restoredminds.com, as we have several resources for you. Also, if you benefited from this, please help us out by liking, subscribing, and leaving a nice review. With that, talk to you guys soon. Hey there. So if you enjoyed that video, we've linked up a few more videos that we think you'd find helpful as well. And if you have found this helpful, we'd really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing. And if you're looking for help and guidance, please check out restoredminds.com, as we have several options for you to get started. See you guys soon.